Huge welcome to week 4 of training for a marathon completely ketogenic. In this week's vlog, you're going to learn how I managed to stay ketogenic while on holiday and how you can do so also. I also experienced over the past week a real struggle with breakfast that no one ever really kind of tells you that you're going to experience. Real kind of sticking point with people doing a ketogenic diet is the side effects that come with them. I share with you exactly how you can overcome those side effects, why they happen, and also how you can just eliminate them completely. But finally, at the end of the week, I had a wedding, which is hard enough to be healthy at anyway, let alone when you're ketogenic, but also completely sober. If you do like this video, please like this video, and if you want to learn more about how you can think clearer, how you can perform better, and how you can just live a healthier and happier life, then please subscribe to the channel. Enjoy this week, week 4 of training for a marathon completely ketogenic, and let me know any lessons that you have in the comments below.
Okay, give it up for Callum Walker. Let's go.
Hello everyone, and welcome to week 4 of the ketogenic marathon. So we've got less than 6 weeks, and to be honest, it really hasn't been as difficult as I thought that it would be, apart from this past week. And the main reason why that's been like a little bit more challenging has mainly just been because it's been a unique circumstance because we were on holiday. So we went to Lisbon for 5 days. Being completely ketogenic on holiday, there's a couple of challenges that kind of come with it. And I think the first almost kind of like challenge that you've got to overcome is the fact that your mind is like, you're on holiday. So there is that natural kind of temptation, because normally, like, I'm a nutritionist. I've been a nutritionist for over 10 years. And even when I've gone on holiday, I've always had that, like, look, you're on holiday, just, relax a little bit. Like, I never go crazy because I find that, like, when I do just eat shit food, I feel so shit anyway. So I never really go crazy. But being on holiday was quite challenging in terms of the mindset and getting away from, like, oh, you're on holiday, just kick back, eat this, isn't this. So that was an initial challenge. But I think the first thing is almost like, why on earth would you be ketogenic on holiday? And I think it comes down to, like, I have quite a compelling reason to be ketogenic. So, if you yourself are exploring a ketogenic diet, I think a holiday is probably one of the most challenging times to continue if you're going like purely and strictly ketogenic. And I think that there will be challenges and difficulties that come your way, but I think you really have to like stoke the flames of the reasoning as to why you're ketogenic. And I think that, like, for me, if I look at what made it much easier to really stay on track with my diet, was the consequences of going off track. Now, if I kind of look at, like, normally, let's say that I was in a ketogenic stint and, I kind of like kicked myself out of ketosis because I had some pasta while I was in Italy. If you do get kicked out of ketosis, normally it's really not that much of an issue. It's only really if you're like epileptic and you require the presence of those ketones at a really high level that you really have to, stay on track with it, and being kicked out of ketosis can be a problem. But if you're just using a ketogenic diet for your general lifestyle, improving your well-being, maybe dropping some body fat, like a little bowl of pasta kicking you out of ketosis momentarily really isn't an issue. But I've got a bit of a unique circumstance, in my opinion, which is I'm running a marathon in 6 weeks' time. A normal marathon, like, I know kind of like nowadays, it's like everyone's doing marathon, but it's still a really long way, and it's a real stressor on the body. But specifically, normally people would need to eat a lot of carbohydrate to, ensure that there's adequate fuel to the brain. But I'm going ketogenic where there's no carbs, which means that, like, I have to make sure that if I'm not giving my brain carbs, that I give it the adequate amounts of ketones necessary to ensure that I don't break down. So I need to make sure that my body and my brain is properly adapted to it, which means that I kind of can't have the luxury and the flexibility of staying on track And I think one of the biggest motivators for us to stay on track with things literally is like, what are the consequences of not staying on track? So like for yourself, with your own training, with your own nutrition, like even if it's something within your life when you're like, I know that I've got to do something, but I'm almost kind of procrastinating over it. Like don't miss out on one of the most powerful motivators as a human being, which is the fear of loss or the fear of consequences, the consequences of what happen if you don't do this thing. So if I look at the consequences of me going like, oh, I'll have a bowl of pasta, that could really like, screw up my adaptation process. And it could just be an unnecessary, like it could result in an unnecessary risk where, I could break down, like legit. It could happen. And you may be like, oh, it's not that serious, but like, it kind of is. So I think that like, again, if you ever kind of struggle with staying on track with something, continually like being motivated or whatever, like look at the fear of consequences. We came back from Lisbon and there was nothing in the fridge. So I need to go and pay my £50 tax, which is almost like the tax you have to pay in the UK to leave the house. It's almost like you go to the supermarket, buy a couple of peppers and you're like 50 quid. So I'm going to the supermarket to pay my £50 tax. By the way, if you see some laundry over there, this is known as the step rule. So basically, if there's washing on the steps, it's there. It means it needs to be taken upstairs. It's 4 o'clock. Alice has been working at the office all day and I have stepped over the washing quite a lot. She'll be back at 6, which means that will be upstairs by 6 o'clock, 100%. And this place will be spick and span. Anyway, coming back to what I'm going to eat. Yeah, I don't know, I just feel like, I always get like so many people say ketogenic diet's not sustainable. I'm like, it's as sustainable as you make it. Like you can make it so creative and interesting and exciting. I'm going to have a staple of mine, a really staple, enjoyable meal for me. What is that? It's my pesto chicken pasta bowl without the pasta. So I think one of the easiest things you can do with a ketogenic diet is basically just take all of the meals that you currently eat, the meals that you currently like, make sure there's no shit in there, and just get rid of the carbs. Like it's really that simple. So if I almost kind of look at like, if I'm eating carbohydrates, like what do I normally have? I'll have like a chicken and chorizo pesto pasta bowl. So what I'll do is I'll fry the onions and the garlic in some extra virgin olive oil and butter. I'll put some chorizo in there. And then really like normally I'd just throw some chicken in, put some pesto in and put some pasta. And then finish that off with some cheese. Normally I'd go with like a Parmigiano Reggiano or a Pecorino Romano. But today I think I'm gonna go with cheddar, and specifically extra mature cheddar. So I'm gonna throw that in there and then top that off with some creme fraiche. Now, if I was having that same meal normally, like I'd just throw some pasta in there, but I'm just gonna have that without the pasta. Now, the problem you can face is that like you end up kind of left with quite saucy dishes sometimes. So I just pack that out with more meat, like more protein and more veggies. So I'll actually put like a whole green pepper in. So it'll be very kind of veggie packed and very veggie dense. So I have like a pesto bowl, which is basically just a pesto pasta bowl without the pasta. It's 4:30. I'm hoping to have that cooked by 5:30. And what I'm gonna try and do is sneak in enough time to get my yogurt bowl in there. Full fat Greek yogurt. I mean, this was my breakfast earlier today. So yes, I am going to have yogurt twice in a day. Now, full fat stuff. Oh my God. Do you know what pisses me off so much? Seeing personal trainers and online coaches sharing that you need to have fat-free yogurt. Oh my God. Nothing breaks my heart more than fat-free fucking yogurt. I want to talk about one of the biggest difficulties of being on a ketogenic diet from an athletic perspective. Yeah, so if we look at kind of how most people will go on a ketogenic diet, most of the time it is for weight loss. But in all honesty, like, I'm not interested in losing weight. Yes, I've naturally got leaner being ketogenic, but my primary focus is, to be ketogenic to fuel the marathon, yeah? Now, the biggest problem I find myself being ketogenic, but being ketogenic from an athletic perspective, is actually getting enough calories in. Why is that a challenge? Well, one of the main reasons why a ketogenic diet is so beneficial for weight loss is the appetite suppression side of things. You find if you've ever been ketogenic or you're interested in being ketogenic, your appetite just isn't there. It's very, very bizarre. Like, you just don't get hungry at all. And that can be really beneficial if you're looking to drop body fat, because naturally caloric restriction becomes really easy. So if I kind of think about all of the clients that I've worked with over the past decade, the main reason why they've had so much success with a ketogenic diet is really because they're just not hungry. I've never had to get them tracking macros, counting calories or whatever. It's just follow a simple set of rules of this is how you make up a meal when you're ketogenic, and just eat until you're satisfied. Now, like I mentioned, that could be so beneficial if you're looking to lose weight. But if I'm trying to get at least 3,000 kcals in a day, I don't really want to have that as an advantage for me. It's really hard to get over 3,000 calories a day in when you're not hungry. Now, another challenge I kind of face is I'm pretty used to fasting. So, if I look at the main reason why I'm normally very low carb, one of the most important things when it comes to my own nutrition, my own health and fitness is my own cognitive performance, to be able to be the best entrepreneur that I can be. And a really beneficial tool for me is intermittent fasting. Fasting is so beneficial when you're looking to optimize cognitive performance because it decreases insulin, but also it ramps up ketone production. So if you're looking to get into ketosis quickly, intermittent fasting is the fastest way to do that. Now, again, like I said, for just classic sort of lifestyle stuff, intermittent fasting is fantastic, but from an athletic point of view, it's a real challenge because I'm used to not eating. I'm used to eating my first meal at 1, maybe 2 o'clock. But for me to kind of get the calories necessary to make sure that I'm not going to get injured, I kind of have to knock fasting on the head, and that's a real challenge. So I've just gone for a little run today. My expenditure is going to be much higher than normal. So, naturally, one of the challenges is I need to have a breakfast, but I just don't have an appetite to eat some yogurt, some eggs. I've kind of had to rely on smoothies. If I almost kind of look at the sort of smoothies I'm having, I'm using an unsweetened almond milk, lots of double cream to get the calories in. Fortunately, being ketogenic, you're eating a lot of very high fat foods. So things like double cream, olive oil, butter are really, really easy ways to increase your calorie intake. So if you are looking to utilize a ketogenic diet for athletic purposes, then again, get those sorts of foods. So I'm gonna have to go this way because of the sun. Get those sorts of foods into your diet. So if I almost kind of look at if I was just having a standard protein shake, I'd be having milk with some whey, and that's gonna be 150, maybe 200 kcals. Whereas by, dumping a load of double cream in there, putting some peanut butter, and then having half an avocado in there, that kind of makes it a 700-800 kcal meal without it being too much to eat, if that makes sense. That's been a way that I've been able to overcome the appetite side of things when it comes to breakfast. So yeah, we're kind of living on smoothies at the moment. You've got me while I'm actually cooking dinner. I will go through what I'm going to be cooking in a second. But if it's a little bit dark, I'm not going to make it any brighter. I need to keep it dark because if it's dark out there, it's dark in here. If you want to sleep better, make sure that it is dark in your house. Why? One of the reasons, so I was quite aggressive with the knife. One of the reasons you're not sleeping well is because you got all your fucking lights on, okay? Got all your lights on. And the problem is that when you've got the lights on, when it's dark out there, the eyes pick up all of the light and go, must be daytime. So if it must be daytime, I'm gonna make sure that we're nice and awake. So one of the main reasons people really struggle to get a good night's sleep is because they're not producing enough melatonin. And they're not producing enough melatonin because they're exposing themselves to too much brightness when it should be dark. Now, if you, I've actually got a podcast episode all on how we can regulate our melatonin levels so that we can sleep better. I'm not going to go into detail on that now. If you want to find out about that, just message in the comments about having access to the sleep optimization podcast series that I've done. But I'm cooking dinner, and specifically, I know I'm probably really late to the party in terms of the air fryer party. I genuinely can't believe I haven't had this in my life. Honestly, I think what I love about it is there's just no faff. There's just literally no faff. It's so easy. Like, I literally just like get my chicken, put it in there, put some olive oil on, some seasoning, put it on, done. And when I forget to turn the oven off, it doesn't matter because it turns the oven off. Unbelievable. And we went a little bit premium. We went a little bit premium in the sense of that we went with the dual fryer. So I can actually cook my meat and my veg at the same time. And it's got this sync feature. Unbelievable. Now, anyway, what am I cooking for dinner? So, me and Alice refer to this as Jimmer's dinner. And what is a Jimmer's dinner? It's literally just meat and veg. I've got nothing fancy. I've got some chicken thighs, especially like I kind of mentioned earlier. One of the main challenges with being ketogenic is getting enough calories in, especially from an athletic perspective. So thighs over breast tastes so much better as well. So I'm just gonna like put some olive oil on, some seasoning. I've got some paprika, smoked paprika, some garlic granules, and what else I'm gonna put on? Just a couple of herbs as well. To make it taste even better, I'm gonna put the chorizo in with the veg, because what will happen is as I cook the chorizo, all of the chorizo oil will like seep into all of the veg, and it will almost kind of like fry in the chorizo oil, and it like soaks it up. It's unbelievable. And then what I'll do, because the veg is going to take a little bit longer than the chicken, I'll get the chicken juices, like all of the fat, and instead of like being healthy, which isn't fucking healthy because you're pouring away all of the high quality oils, what I'll do is I'll actually get the juices from this, so the excess olive oil and the excess fat that comes off the chicken, and I'll pour it into the veg. So it's just going to be unbelievable. And then I'll top it off with probably some feta cheese, I reckon. Sprinkle some feta over, which would be beautiful. So welcome to Friday. I'm just about to go to the gym. I mean, like, the weather was so nice yesterday, which really like motivated me to want to go for a run. And it's just so British today. I don't know if you can see like through the sky, through the light here in the car, but it's just really grey. So today's gonna be a gym day. When I see so many people doing a marathon, they almost kind of like fully sacrifice their whole life to do it. Now, I have made the decision not to sacrifice my whole life and train like 5-6 times a week, so to speak, to do this marathon, because I really do love resistance exercise as well. So I wanted this to almost like complement my life as opposed to just like become my life. But I think something that's really important for me is that, like, again, I've mentioned this throughout this week. I'm not running for a time. I'm just running to run. Like, the way that I see running the Paris Marathon is I'm just going to go on a trot around Paris. How long that takes me, I genuinely don't care. For me, the main interest is more being ketogenic, because in terms of the total time I'll be ketogenic, it'll be around 9 weeks. And it's more around showing people that you can live a ketogenic lifestyle for a longer period of time. I think one of the things that frustrates me around a ketogenic diet is that people say it's so unsustainable. And, you know, I'm coming to almost kind of my 5th week of being ketogenic. And, you know, don't get me wrong, like, while we were in Lisbon, there were times where, I mean, I'd have absolutely murdered some granola or murdered some sourdough bread that came with my eggs and avocado. But besides just normal temptations, it's just really easy. So, and I always say, like, a diet's just as easy as you make it. So the main reason why I'm really kind of doing this is more around like just showing people that you can be ketogenic, and also that you can exercise ketogenic. I mentioned, like, in week 1, I ran 18 kilometers completely fasted. And that may not sound like a huge, like, big thing, but I wasn't lacking in energy at any point throughout the whole time. I wasn't starving afterwards. I didn't feel battered immediately after either. One thing I wanted to kind of share with you is a really important thing that you have to do prior to exercise, especially if you are ketogenic. Biggest mistake people make when they're ketogenic, and it's why they feel so many rough side effects, you know, such as fatigue, headaches, lightheadedness, generally just feeling like crap. is because when you're ketogenic, the body deals with minerals very differently. And specifically, it deals with sodium very differently. Typically, you'll find on a ketogenic diet, you'll lose between 2 and 3 grams of salt a day. And the biggest mistake people make is that they don't increase their salt intake when they're ketogenic, which is why they can even get like symptoms like heart palpitations. So if you ever get like hear of something called the keto flu, it's effectively just the adaptation process, and it can be remedied through salt. How can you increase your salt intake? One, eat more salt, pretty obvious, but supplement with it. So I use Element. Now, this isn't an ad. I'm not sponsored by them. I mean, I would like to be sponsored by them because this is quite expensive. It'd save me like 50 to 70 quid a month. And yes, I spend 50 to 70 quid a month on electrolytes. So I will take that, and I did take that about half an hour prior to my training session. Now, what you'll find is that first of all, it mitigates any ketogenic side effects, but also to keep it really simple, like in order for your muscles to contract, they basically like ping across a bit of salt. So it's something called which is fancy, called the sodium potassium pump. But basically, when you're contracting the muscle, so let's say like I'm doing a bicep curl, I'm going like that. And then when I'm relaxing the muscle, what happens is it pings across some salt, contracts, pings across some salt, and relaxes. Now what can happen is that when you're doing exercise, you're sweating. Now what does your sweat taste like? Salt. So what are you losing out of the system? Salt. So typically you find that when people are dehydrated, when they're lacking in salt, when they're lacking in electrolytes, their ability to perform can decrease massively. Like typically you'll find a 10% reduction in power, an 8% reduction in speed, concentration levels just like go in the toilet. So if you want a really, really easy, simple hack to level up your performance, just get an electrolyte in about half an hour to an hour before training. Now, you don't have to go and spend a shed ton of money like I do. Alice, as always, is much smarter than me. And she came across a brand called Pure Sport, which is the exact same as this, but it's half the price. So I'm on my last batch of these because I'm like, well, why spend 50 quid when I can spend 25 quid? So yeah, I just nailed one of those prior to training, and that will, one, help from a ketogenic point of view, but also help me lift stronger, bro. We've got a wedding today. Last night we kind of had like a, it was almost like a pre-wedding sort of dinner. It was really lovely, actually. Kind of like a family gathering. And I kind of said earlier that like when you're ketogenic and you're eating out a lot, like you have to kind of like plan ahead, because when your food is almost kind of like out of your control, there's going to be a lot of like carby options, and you can kind of end up like with not a lot to eat. So yesterday I was fortunate. I kind of knew what the menu was beforehand. There was like a ham hock Tiran, which is just almost kind of like, I don't know, it's just a ham. It was just kind of like, I don't know, I can't really kind of articulate what it was. And then there was a chicken breast, and like there was a couple of veggies, but it wasn't really kind of like a full-on substantial meal for me. But fortunately, like I knew that it was going to be like a little bit of an issue from a food point of view. So Alice got me a packet of pork puffs. So if you are ketogenic, one of the big things that you really like miss out on is the crunch. They're almost like ketogenic quavers. As I was driving down here, I had a bag of those, which is really nice. The only thing is, if you are going to eat them, you've got to drink a lot of water because you get like really like dry, stuffy throat. And then also, in terms of like service stations, it's actually really good because there's this thing called chicken on a stick. Now, it doesn't sound particularly exciting and enthralling, but chicken on a stick is almost like you've got like a chicken thigh kebab, which is pre-cooked, and you can get them in service stations now. So instead of having like the dry packets of chicken, it's actually really quite moist. So yeah, so I was quite fortunate that like, ahead of the meal, just to make sure like I wasn't going to be super hungry afterwards. Like I just ate before. I already knew what I was going to eat. But yeah, like this morning, what time is it now? It's like what, just 10:30? I think the wedding like starts at 2:30. So we've got like a 4-hour period. And where we're staying, there's a sauna, there's a spa and a gym. So me and my brother are rooming with each other. We've got to go to the shop because I didn't realize there was going to be a pool. and I haven't got any shorts. So I've got to go to the shop to go and get some shorts, because then we can have a swim. We just had breakfast, and again, like breakfast, like in terms of kind of like when you're eating out, breakfast is one of the easiest things, especially in the UK, because like a full English breakfast is basically ketogenic, just without the beans, hash browns, and toast. So like this morning, I just had like some high quality sausages. They were really nice, some bacon, some eggs and tomato. So that was really quite easy. Yeah, so we'll kind of like head to the gym for like 11:30. No idea what the quality of the gym's gonna be like. So, you know, we'll just almost kind of take whatever session it's gonna be. And then to be honest, it's just gonna be a little bit of bro time in the pool, in the sauna, which will be lovely. Now, the other thing is that, I don't know if you find this with weddings. So it's like a 2:30, 3 o'clock ceremony. And then there's always kind of that period in between where there's a lot of kind of standing around. And you kind of find that you won't eat until like 5, 6, maybe 7 o'clock. So I'm gonna make sure beforehand that I can just get some food in. Gonna go to the shop or like to get some shorts now, but then I'll just get like a couple of snacks. But more importantly, electrolytes are going to be with me just to kind of keep the appetite down. Again, like key thing when you are ketogenic that people do mistake is that sometimes it's difficult to determine whether you're genuinely hungry or you're just dehydrated and craving salt. So here he is. This is my bro. During COVID, I had a real meltdown. So basically, like my whole business as a nutritionist was in person, coaching people face to face. And also all of my marketing and sales was all face to face. I used to grow my business through networking. Basically what happened was when lockdown happened and they had this announcement where they basically said that there's going to be the majority of businesses cannot like work in person. I lost like 75% of my client base like overnight, and I had a full-on meltdown, didn't I? Around that time, I got like a gig. It was the first time I'd properly gone online, like for this charity, which was kind of helping the community eat better. And we just did loads of cooking demonstrations. And it kind of started off, like I'd never done any of these sorts of things beforehand. But like it started off, like I was just making a load of meals and Luca was my cameraman. And yeah, like, you know, it was being streamed to like loads of Facebook groups. There was like thousands of people watching. And we had a little like kind of cooking show, didn't we? So maybe we're going to have to bring that back at another point. Hello everyone and welcome back. We're on the final day of week 4. When I started training for this, I had a lot of people say like, oh, what time are you aiming for? What time do you want to hit? And a lot of them were very surprised when I said like, I'm not interested in a time at all. They're like, what do you mean? And I was like, I'm going for personal best. And they're like, yeah, what time? And I was like, well, my current personal best is a half marathon. So my personal best I'm going for is a marathon. I've never ran a marathon before. So I'm going after a personal best, which is to finish it. And I think it's really important because if I was going for a time, I'd be measuring myself against other people. If I was like, right, I want to hit a sub 4-hour marathon, I'm measuring myself against people who run sub 4-hour marathons. Whereas I think for us, the most important thing we can ever do is measure ourselves against ourselves. You know, one of my favorite books is The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy, and they talk about this. They say there's 2 types of individual in the world, 2 types of entrepreneur. Let's say that both entrepreneurs start with 0 customers in their business. And let's say they have a goal of getting to 30. Both entrepreneurs find themselves at the same stage in their career at 20 customers. One entrepreneur sees themselves as minus 10 because they're at 20, but they're 10 customers away from 30. Whereas the other entrepreneur is still at 20 customers, but they see themselves at plus 20. Who do you think it is that's the happiest out of the 2? Do you think it's the entrepreneur who sees themselves at plus 20 or the entrepreneur who sees themselves at negative 10? Despite being in the exact same situation. Now, what's the difference between the 2? The difference between the 2 is that one is measuring themselves against where they're not, but the other is measuring themselves against where they were. So if I look at myself in terms of my marathon, this whole marathon is a reflection of my own entrepreneurial journey. My entrepreneurial journey has been being very low carb and ketogenic and doing things that many people say can't be done, which is why I'm doing it ketogenic. Also, being an entrepreneur for myself, I found myself in what they refer to as the gap. You need to go and read that book if you hadn't. Seeing myself against where I'm not, where I should be, where everyone else is, which is why I'm going after a personal best here. And that personal best is simply to finish. But more importantly as well, I'm doing a strategy that I learned from Jesse Itzler, and he learned it from another guy. So I'm not taking any claim for this, but it's called the run-walk strategy. Not very complicated. You run and you walk. He will not run at any one time for longer than 7 minutes. So that's what I'm doing. I'm running for typically like a kilometer, and then I'll walk for 30 seconds to a minute. So I'm typically almost kind of running for like 5 or 6 minutes and then walking for about a minute. And it's amazing, like I've really kind of found such a less stress on my body. But then also like I end up kind of running faster. You're almost kind of giving yourself that recovery period in between, and you're able to then sprint. Well, not sprint, but run faster. So the time almost kind of takes care of itself, but there's also kind of like a less of a strain on the body, which is really interesting. So yeah, now the other thing is that I guarantee, I think I said this on one of my videos the other day, I guarantee I'll have a lot of people who be like, don't give up. And I'm like, no, this is part of my strategy, I'm walking. Now again, like, why am I doing that? Well, within life and running a business, there's a time to run, there's a time to walk. And there's also a time to put your feet up, have a cup of tea, and just look at the view of the mountain that you've just climbed. So, and I think that that's just a really kind of nice metaphor for, how I'm, really actively trying to live my life at the moment. When there's a time to run, when you got juice in the tank, fucking send it, man. Send it and go. But also, there's a time to just kind of like walk, look around and admire the view. And there's also a time to just pull back, stop, and go, okay, right, I just need to be where I am right now and appreciate what I have achieved.